So here we're asked to solve the quadratic equations using different methods. So we can choose from the quadratic formula, taking the square root, graphing, or factoring. And I'm actually gonna make it a longer video that does all three of these in one. And I know that might deter people from watching it, but I think it's important to understand why we choose which method for which equation here. So in this case here, I'm gonna talk about all three of them and which method I'm gonna use, and then I'm gonna solve each individually. So the first one here for number 7, we actually have no x term, right? So in this way, you have a 3x here and a negative 2x here. So in this one here, I'm actually going to take the square root for this one here, because when I solve this one here, I can get x squared by itself by adding 8 to both sides. So in this one here, before even doing the math, I'm looking at there's no x value, there's no x term, so I'm going to take the square root to help me solve it. For number 8 here, honestly, in my opinion, personally, whenever I have an a value, there's a little bit of funkiness going on when we're factoring or even graphing. So normally whenever I see an a value, my first thought is always to go straight to the quadratic formula. It's a little bit more work because we're putting it into the entire formula and then solving it and simplifying, and we can have some errors there, but it's the safest one in my opinion when dealing with an a value. And the last one here, because we have an a value of 1, we have an x term, and then we have a value that we can move over to make it standard form. This one I'm actually probably going to use factoring for to help me answer this one here. So this one, I have the quadratic formula for this one, and taking the square root on this one here. So let's get into it. So for this first one, solving by square roots, the first step that we got to do is we got to add 8 to both sides, because if we do that, we get x squared by itself. And we have 56 plus 8, which is 64. Now, once we have x squared by itself, we can take the square root here, which gives us x by itself. And then the square root of 64 is 8. And don't forget that it's positive or negative 8. So my two solutions here, they're both real, and it's positive 8 and negative 8. For this one here, where we're going to use the quadratic formula, it's already in standard form, so I can already just start plugging numbers in. Negative 3 for b value, because it's a negative, I'm going to make it positive. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is negative 3 squared, which is 9. Minus 4 times a value, which is 2, b value, which is negative 2, and all of that is over 2a, and 2 times 2 is 4. So now to simplify this on the inside, I'm going to go ahead and multiply 4ac here. 4 times 2 is 8, times negative 2 is negative 16. So I get 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 minus a negative 16, which is just like adding a positive, over 4. Then I get 3 plus or minus the square root of 25 over 4. And that gives me 3 plus or minus 5 over 4, which I'm going to split into 2 because it's 3 plus or minus. So 3 plus 5 over 4 and 3 minus 5 over 4. 3 plus 5 over 4 is 8 over 4, which I know is 2. And 3 minus 5 over 4 is negative 2 over 4, which simplifies to negative 1/2. So my two solutions here are 2 and negative 1/2. And lastly here, this one we're going to solve by factoring. First thing we got to do is get it into standard form. So I'm actually going to subtract 35 from both sides, which gives me x squared minus 2x minus 35 equals 0. Now, again, the way that you factor depends on you, but really all you're trying to do is find the pair of numbers that multiply to the c value and add to the b value. So I know negative 7 and positive 5 multiply to negative 35 and add to negative 2. So that factors this into x minus 7 times x plus 5. If you're ever not sure if you factored correctly, you can always FOIL or box method to multiply these two. And if you get back to this exact same set of numbers here, you'll be all set. If you messed up somewhere, then you'll know you got it wrong on that one there. So now that we factored it, remember, we're trying to figure out when is this all equal to 0, and if we're multiplying, we know if these left terms here make 0, that's an answer, and if the right terms here give us 0, then that's an answer also. I know that if I plugged in positive 7, that would give me 0 here, and if I plugged in negative 5, that would give me 0 here. So my two solutions here are positive 7 and negative 5.